I am Vinnie Tortorich. Folks, your good intentions have been stolen, but don't worry. I'm here to help you get them back. You may be soft and succulent at the beginning of this process, but hang in there. Before long, you will be lean and mean, guaranteed, just like the guest we have today. I met this woman on a very, very, very hot day in the middle of a desert. And after talking to her for 5 minutes, I said, hey, how about you come and do my podcast? I'm talking about the one and only Miss Laura Watts. Yeah. How's it going, Laura?
Really good, thank you, Vinny. Thank you for having me on.
It's a pleasure to have you on. And Laura, I'm going to come right out of the gate and tell you this. I get, whenever I have ultra athletes, by the way, folks, Laura is an ultra athlete. Whenever I have ultra athletes on this show, it's one of the few times I get hate mail. But it's not real hate mail, it's concerned mail. People are concerned. They'll go, hey, I love your show. I love what you do. I've been listening to you for X number of years. But I can't relate to that Dean Carnesi. I don't. Yeah, you had Mike McKnight on. I can't. I don't. Mike. I can't. The guy ran 200 miles. I don't get that. Why don't you get people on like me? Well, in the case of someone like Mike McKnight, he was an over. Do you know who Mike McKnight is?
Yes, yeah, I've met him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the guy, a wonderful human being, he and his wife. The guy started off, he was morbidly obese, right? And he was the guy that never wanted to exercise, never wanted to do anything, and just turned his life around. And I find more and more, Chris Kostman's been on the show a half dozen times or more, and people really, they get angry, Laura. They really do. I don't relate to these people. Well, guess what? These people were and still is just like you in a lot of cases. Would you agree, Laura?
Oh yeah, honestly, I really am a ordinary girl trying to do extraordinary things, and I always think if I can do it, anyone can do it. I think you need a certain level of fitness, obviously, but a lot of this stuff is in the mind, and it's just incredible what the human body can achieve if you just try it and put yourself out your comfort zone. And I mean, you don't obviously just get up one day and run 100 miles. You do have to sort of build up to it, but anything is possible.
Laura, I met you and your husband, Matthew. I'm going to ask the question: are you a billionaire? Do you have $1 billion in the bank somewhere?
I wish. No.
Yeah, me too. So you don't have $1 billion. Do you work for a living?
Yes,
Yeah,
I
go to work.
yeah, yeah. We both actually work for Virgin Atlantic here in the UK. I'm a flight attendant actually. Well, I'm on board. I'm actually the one in charge. I'm sort of the flight service manager, and Matthew is a pilot. He's a captain.
Is
So
that how you guys met?
yeah, we met on a flight to Los Angeles back in the year 2000. It's like doctors and nurses, pilots and hosties.
Yeah.
Yeah, we met. But yeah, we've been married about 14 years. 14 years
Wow.
now.
Yeah, so that's got to be a pretty common thing, right? You got a pretty girl like you. And by the way, folks, if you saw Matthew and Laura together, he's this kind of strapping, good looking, you know, sandy blondish hair, blue eyes, and he's a captain, right? And then you got this really cute, kind of bubbly, good-looking wife, and you go, okay, how did this happen? But that's got to be pretty common, right? You got a good-looking guy flying a plane, you got a good-looking woman running the back saying, "Hey, you're the one that talks into the microphone, right? Is
Oh,
that you?"
exactly. Yeah, I
Yeah,
make the announcements. Yeah,
yeah. If you got enough miles, you get our credit card and all that kind of stuff.
exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
No, I suppose a lot of people do meet at work. Like my mum and dad met at work. They in London. They both work for the Bank of England. But you know, it's I mean, yeah, it seems a long time ago now. But you do spend a lot of time at work. But it's yeah. I didn't obviously out to meet a pilot, but it just
Well,
so happened.
but he was there and you were there. Look, I mean, I think that's kind of the problem. And we're going to get back to my billionaire question. I haven't forgotten. This podcast goes off in circles, but when you think about it, now we have a thing like they have HR at companies. If you date someone in the company, it's like you could get in trouble. As a matter of fact, no, this is not that, but we just saw the CEO of a company called Astronomer. It's all over the internet.
Goodness, I know.
He's with the head of HR with his arms wrapped around her
And the
at a
kiss cam.
concert.
Oh my goodness, that was so awful. Cringe. But I mean, yeah.
Yeah. And then he tries to do the thing where he ducks down. He's like, oh no, I hope no one in the world saw me for 30 seconds
Now
grabbing this
everyone,
woman's boobs while I'm watching Coldplay. By the way, you notice the most shocking part of that story is that Coldplay is still filling up stadiums. It's like, who's listening to this crap?
yeah.
Right?
Oh,
It's just nuts. But we have stuff like that. You're not supposed to, like you talk to a girl at work, they can go, hey, I'm being harassed and the whole thing. But that's the way most people met back in the day. You met someone in your proximity, which was work,
yeah.
correct?
Oh yeah, no, exactly. No, I think it's different. I mean, at Virgin, I mean, we've got, you obviously know Richard Branson, he's a billionaire, our
Yeah.
boss. And yeah, Virgin are, totally cool. There's quite a few couples at work. And we're quite a progressive company, a cool company. Um, and on Virgin social media, they love the fact that Matthew and I are a couple.
Really?
Yeah, no, they do. They love them. They, and it's sort of like Valentine's Day. They always do like a thing about our cute couples at work, and we work. We work together. We fly together a lot, which is lovely. But we're obviously not working exactly together. He's in the flight deck, I'm in the cabin. But down route, it's great. We've just actually got back from New York this morning. We're actually on different flights, but we were there together, so it was nice. We landed like half an hour apart, and then went out for dinner, and I went out for a run the next day, and just spent the day together in New York. It was quite cool.
But when you first started dating, now you see, you got me thinking. You guys see each other on the flight. You look at him and go, "Oh, he's kind of cute." He looks at you, "Oh my gosh, he's kind of cute." How does that go? You guys get to LA and he goes, "Hey, would you like a drink?" I mean, what do we do?
Oh
What are
yeah,
we doing?
when we did that trip, we didn't do it the first night because everyone was tired. But the next night, a few of us, a couple of pilots and a few of the crew went out, and yeah, no, Matthew and I just got on really well. And yeah, we might have had a kiss, and then
Hmm.
then the yeah, then it wasn't actually. I won't bore you and the viewers, listeners with.
No, no, hang on. I'm in. I'm into this
Yeah,
story.
we did. We went out on a couple of dates back in the UK because we didn't live near each other. We lived like 100 miles apart.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so we went to Matthew came over to where I lived, and went out for dinner and stuff. And then initially, we didn't get together straight away. It wasn't the right time. And then I went to Australia for a year. They had a secondment with work to work for Virgin Australia. So I did
Hmm.
that for a year. And Matthew, when I was out there, Matthew did a Hong Kong Sydney trip. So he was out in Sydney. I was living in Melbourne. And it was the days before we didn't have Facebook or, I mean, we had emails and text messages, but he got in touch with me and said he was coming to Sydney. So I flew down to meet him because we'd always sort of remained friends over the years. And then we went out in Sydney, and says, it was initially right girl, wrong time, but it was right time both our lives. I was coming back to the UK, and then he was going actually on holiday to Egypt to go and because he windsurfs to go and windsurfing, and he was going on his own, and he invited me to go. So I went because I obviously knew him quite well, and we had a brilliant time together. And then when we got back after a couple of weeks, he actually asked me to move in. So it all happened quite quick.
Wow.
But you do know when you meet when you've met the one. Um,
Yeah, I think that happened to me and Serena. She was getting out of a relationship, and it was kind of a bad relationship or something. Like it just didn't work out,
mhm.
and we ran into each other at a Starbucks,
Oh wow.
and it didn't take the first time we met, and she told me to kiss off. And then about a week later is when I learned that I had cancer. It was like 17. It was well over 18 years ago now, 19 years. And So I never thought about her again. I didn't really even know her name,
Yeah.
right? And I went through chemo and everything. I was looking kind of crappy after. You go through chemo, you go through cancer. You've had cancer. I mean, you go through it all, and you come out the other side. You look like shit. I'm at the same Starbucks and ran into her again, and she still didn't. She gave me her number out of my persistence, but she was like, "Yeah, I'll go on one date with this guy, but it's not going to go." And here we are, 18, 19 years
Oh,
later. I couldn't imagine life without her. It's like you try to think of life before that person, you can't,
oh no,
right?
no. Oh God, exactly. No, it's. I mean, no, that is a lovely story. So thanks to
Yeah,
Starbucks, you've got your
yeah.
amazing wife.
As much as I hate Starbucks, they introduced me to the woman of my dreams.
Yeah.
Um, the reason I asked you about being a billionaire, you're not. You work for a living,
Hmm.
right? Back in 1980, let's call it 85. It could have been 86. I played American football, the actual real football, and played through college. And after football, I noticed I was gaining weight, not muscle weight anymore. I was gaining fat around the waist.
Right.
And I did a couple of things. One, I cut out all junk food. At first, that was kind of my thing, just cut out any kind of cereal or whatever and started eating. And I started riding a bike. I was very good back in the day of compartmentalizing my money. I was still in college.
Hmm.
I literally had a pizza budget. I would work really hard when it wasn't school time, and I had a pizza budget. I had a gasoline budget. I'm sorry, wait, you don't know what that means. I had a petrol budget,
Oh yeah,
and,
yeah.
and on and on and on, right? And I looked at my pizza budget, which is less than $100, and I looked at my gas money budget, and I said, okay, I'm going to take both of those budgets and go out and buy a bicycle. And anywhere I need to get around New Orleans, Louisiana, I'm going to go on a bicycle. That's it. My parents lived 85 miles away. If I wanted to go visit them, I had
Sorry.
to get a bike because I used my gas money,
Uh-huh.
right? And I just fell in love with cycling. Next thing I know, I'm buying bicycle magazines and I'm buying Velo News and I'm following something called the Tour de France, right? Didn't even really, I knew what it was. These crazy guys get on the bike, but I learned how the races go. Turns out I lost a lot of weight really fast. Started doing criteriums around New Orleans and this kind of thing, and started doing more and more stuff. And one day I read in Bicycle Magazine about a guy named Pete Penseers. You ever hear that name before?
I don't think I have. No, tell me more.
Pete was a pretty famous guy, Laura. He, well, famous for me, not for the
Mhm.
rest of the world. He had just set a new record in a race called the Race Across America, the Ram.
Oh yeah, I've heard of
I'm
that.
sure you've heard of the Ram.
Yeah, yeah,
Probably the biggest bike race on the planet, bigger than the Tour de France. More people probably know about the Ram.
yeah.
Maybe not. But I looked at that and I went, okay, one day I'm going to figure out how to become a millionaire. And once I become a millionaire, I'm going to stop working and I'm going to go after Pete Penseers. Now, I was working as a PE teacher in a high school down in New Orleans. I had no way in hell of becoming a millionaire on a teacher's salary, right?
Hmm.
But I had in my mind I was going to become a millionaire and go after Pete Penseers. Then I figured out a year later, Pete Penseers wasn't a millionaire. He worked as a I don't know, an engineer for some company in California. And he
Uh-huh.
rode his bike 40 miles to work every day and 40 miles home. And on the weekends, he would do these longer rides. So
Yeah.
I became obsessed with Pete, right? Then I learned about a kid a few years later. I still hadn't done an ultra. I learned about a kid named Chris Kosman.
We know Chris very well.
Chris and I are about the same age, but I heard about Chris because when he was 18, back in early, maybe late 70s, early 80s, maybe 80, yeah, maybe 81, 82. He had done something that no one else had done. He was the youngest guy to finish the Ram.
Yeah.
And I went, he must be his parents must be millionaires. Turns out his parents are the same as my parents, school teachers. See,
Mhm.
whenever I would learn about these people, they weren't billionaires. They weren't Richard Branson flying a balloon around the world,
Yeah.
right? Chris Kostman was a normal guy.
Hmm.
Pete Pensears was a normal guy. They just figured out how to do their thing while being normal.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until 1991-ish or 2-ish when I said, you know what? Turns out I'm never going to become a millionaire or a billionaire. But I can figure out what these people figured out. And by then, there were a lot more names I learned about in that cycling community, right? The beauty is that we can all figure things out. And then, lo and behold, at some point in the 90s, Chris and I, we were both living in Brentwood. We got to know each other. I used to do his races. He used to have a company with his then girlfriend called Planet Ultra. Do you even know about Planet Ultra? Never heard of it, right?
I have listened to a couple of Chris's podcasts. Was that when he was a spinning instructor, he was introducing spinning into?
Yeah, well, spinning started. That's another whole story.
Oh,
Spinning and Schwinn starting the whole spinning craze started because of a guy named Johnny Goldberg, who Chris knows very well,
yeah,
who came up with this bike because ultra cyclists couldn't ride bikes outdoors all night long without getting hit by a drunk guy on the weekends. He
yeah,
put a big flywheel on the front of a bike and put it on, it's on it's on a single gear, right? That became the Johnny G spinner that Schwinn basically stole Johnny G's name and went and made the first spinning thing. An ex-girlfriend of mine in LA, I'm not going to mention her name here, I don't want to get sued. She had one of the biggest aerobic studios in West Hollywood, and she and Johnny G got together, and that's where the whole spinning. You're talking about Peloton today.
yeah.
It started back then. You see, I was at the beginning of all that with those people,
Cool.
and
Oh,
Chris was probably teaching spinning classes way back when
yeah,
because we were all doing that kind of stuff in the 80s, right? So it's kind of a quick history through this whole thing. I'll tell you something else. You could probably go find this. Maybe Chris talked about it in another podcast.
yeah.
But Chris at one time said that the Badwater 135 was the craziest, nuttiest people on the planet. He can't understand why anyone would ever do it.
Was
Did
that
you know that?
before he was the race director, or?
That's correct. He was like, "This is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. These people are going to kill themselves. I don't know what's going on." Because,
Even though he
the,
did the Death Valley 508 bike ride.
yeah, the Furnace Creek 508, which
That was
ran on the
fine.
same course.
Yeah.
And by the way, here's the funny thing. Ultra cyclists, we cannot understand ultra runners. Ultra runners cannot understand ultra cyclists unless you're Danny Westergaard and you did both,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
right? Danny and my wife did Badwater, Salton Sea a couple of times together.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, yeah. Danny and I go way back,
Yeah, Danny's such a nice guy. He's a legend.
and kind of dreamy when you think about it, right? Guy's good
Yeah,
looking. He's like 65, 66.
yeah, yeah.
Looks,
That looks
looks his
great. Yeah,
I always say when he's around, I got to keep my eye on Serena. It's like,
exactly. Yeah.
run off in that direction.
No.
It's this whole crazy world of people think that ultra runners do nothing except run. And that's where I want to kick off with you
Mm.
right after this. Folks, purevitaminclub.com, the purest vitamins on the planet. How do I know that? I own the company. I don't just own the company. I come up with every one of the formulas at purevitaminclub.com. Take our Ultrasalt, for instance. We're going to be talking to Laura about Ultrasalt in just a minute because she did something with hydration that I'd never heard of before, and I want to know more about it. But here's the thing about Ultrasalt. Basically, what I did was I went to a couple of scientists over at Amgen and I said, I want to deconstruct sweat. I want whatever people are losing, exactly what's coming out of their body, I want that going back into their body. And that's how we came up with Ultrasalt, the best hydration electrolyte on the planet. But that's not all. We have it all at purevitaminclub.com. Go check it out right now. We make the best, the purest vitamins on the planet, guaranteed, at the lowest possible price. Purevitaminclub.com. We're talking to Laura Watts. Laura, let's start off right there. You work for a living. You fly back and forth.
Yeah.
Transcontinental flights.
Yes. Yeah. All long haul.
Okay. How do you do it? How do you do that? Do you have kids? What's going on? I need to know a little bit about your life to see how you're fitting all this running in.
Yeah, well, we don't have children, but I'm actually part-time at Virgin Atlantic now. So I work 10 days a month, is my contract, which works perfectly with the running. If I was a full-time cabin crew, it would be quite difficult because you only have like 2 days off between your sort of your trips, 2 or 3 days off, which is a lot. And I do kind of marathons like most weekends as training runs. So with my 10 days, that's like 3 trips. So now, yeah, so I kind of do have quite a lot of time off to pursue my other passion of running, and also no children as well. So Matthew and I, in a way, do have a bit of a selfish existence, but it just means we can fit everything. I can fit everything in. Matthew does work full time, bless him. He needs to earn the money.
Yes, someone's got to pay for this habit. But was there any portion of your time when you were doing ultras and working full time?
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking when I started to do my first ultra was 2016, and I don't actually think I went part time at Virgin till about 2018, 2019. So but there wasn't quite. I was doing it more for fun then. It was just maybe 2 ultras a year, or at first ultra did was 100 kilometers. Then maybe that was, I think, in May, and then in the August I attempted to run 100 miles. And in fact, the first time I attempted a 100-mile race, I actually didn't finish it because I mentally gave up. But it's just gone a bit especially after COVID. It's definitely gone a bit more bonkers with doing marathons every weekend and stuff like that. But yeah, I suppose at the time I just fitted it in with my work life. But trouble is, after doing long haul flights, it's really, really tiring. Nights out of bed, and it's difficult to sometimes to get the motivation to train when when you are tired, and then you've got to listen to your
Yeah.
body as well, because it's getting that balance.
Okay, so I mentioned Mike McKnight earlier. Mike told me that he used to pay his friends not to go play basketball or baseball. He would say, "Hey, if you guys come with me, I'll buy everyone ice cream." He would literally pay his friends off when he was a kid. He ended up morbidly obese. He was like, "Were you an athlete as a kid, or how does that work?"
Yeah, so at school I was quite sporty. I was not the best at anything, but I was in like the cross country team. I did athletics. I did like the 800 meters and the 1500 meters, which they all considered long distance then at school, which I find quite ironic. Twice or 4 times around the track, and then. And like hockey, netball, I was in all the sort of sports teams. But after I left school, started working, I did put on a bit of weight, and I still ran, but just for kind of really not far, just for fun. And in fact, when I went to Australia back in 2005, I came back and I put on 2 stone in weight because it was like a year of just sort of
28 pounds, folks. Go on.
yeah, drinking, eating, and oh god. And I thought, I had already run a marathon prior to that in 2003. And after I came back from Australia, and I met Matthew, and I thought, I've got to get running again. That is for me the best thing for getting my weight down and health combined with healthy eating. And so then it started doing a marathon a year. But yeah, my dad used to run as well, especially so when I was growing up. You see dad going out running, so it's always been part of my life, but in different levels of intensity.
What was I told my story of Pete Penseers and just reading that, and just, sometimes you read something or you see something, it just never leaves your mind. Like that was just, I, I never thought anyone can ride a bike 100 miles, right? And then I read about the Tour de France, and it's like, oh, they do sometimes 225 kilometers a day, and that's well over 100 miles, right? And then I went, this can be done, right? It's almost like until you hear it, you don't know it,
Yeah.
right? And then 100 miles became normal for me. And then you hear about 3,000 miles nonstop, where these guys that I ended up crewing for Ram one year for my buddy David Holt. And even being on the crew, it's it's overbearing. I mean, it's just unbelievable. When did you hear about a 100-mile race? When? Well, I don't even want to go there first. Let's go to marathon. When did you said, yeah, I gained 28 pounds. I'm doing A, B, C, and D. I'm going to have to get naked in front of Matt at some point. I need to lose this weight. You know, are you running marathons at that point, or you just start jogging like your dad again?
Yeah, well, it was I did in 2000 and yes, 2006 or 2007 I think. I did one marathon in the whole year. So I literally trained for like a normal person. I trained probably for about 4 months for the marathon.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next year I did one marathon again, London Marathon. Again, same thing, properly trained for it. And then maybe, you know, 2 years later, I did two marathons in the year. So I was just I suppose most normal people, do one event in a year that they'll build up to. And so, but then it just like sort of snowballed when I did discover, like I say, I'm same as you. I never realized there was events out there where people could run one step further than a marathon. I just thought, because in a marathon, I had really given it everything, but I didn't know that with ultra marathons, you do, well, not the elite. I've now realized the elite just run flat out and they're just incredible. Whereas
Yeah.
you run a little bit slower, you walk up the hills, you get to eat. So it was a whole new world when I discovered what people were doing at, and multi-day events, people doing 10 marathons in 10 days. And because when I did my first marathon, everyone's like, oh, it takes you 3 months to recover from a marathon. And I never thought you could just do this sort of stuff, what the body can achieve. So yeah, it just sort of got gradually built up over the years.
Well, when you think about it, I'm older. I'm going to be 63 in about 2 months. And when you think about it, when I grew up, Catherine Switzer
Oh yeah, Boston
snuck
Marathon.
into the Boston Marathon, and what they were saying before she snuck into that marathon was like, oh, a woman can't run 26.2 miles. Her uterus will fall out. That was the thought pattern of, if a woman did that kind of jolting around, her uterus will fall out.
It's bonkers.
Think about that.
Yeah.
I remember the first time Pam Reed didn't just win Badwater, she won it outright.
Yeah.
A woman with an eating disorder won it outright.
Wow. I
Right?
didn't know she had an eating disorder.
Have you seen her? Have you met her?
I have, yeah, I have.
Yeah. And I'm not saying something she's never talked about. She talked about it in her book,
Mm,
that she had an eating disorder. So I'm not talking out of turn.
mm,
And you look at Pam. Pam looks very frail, right?
mm.
I look at you. You're lean, but you look healthy. And I saw you were in the pool with this other woman who just ran the marathon also.
Oh yeah.
Very lean, yet very healthy looking, right? Pam Reed looks like she's going to, if a small gust comes up, is going to just knock her off the planet,
Yeah. So how she's
right?
got that, energy to run those distances and
She
win.
didn't just run; she beat the men,
Yeah, amazing.
right? So we go from Catherine Switzer, where they're going, hey, if you run this thing, your uterus is going to fall right through your vagina and you're going to die, all the way to Pam Reed with an eating disorder beating all the men at Badwater.
Yeah.
Right? Think about that. It's kind of crazy how far we've come.
Oh yeah, I know. Women, I mean, the rise of women is, they say it's here for the women's race. I mean, Ashley Paulson a couple of years ago beat
Yeah,
all the guys at Badwater.
won
Absolutely
it
insane.
outright. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was not a couple of, was that last year?
Uh,
Year
was it
before?
2 years, 2023, I think it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, because last year Badwater Sean Burke won. I think it was 2023. Even 2022, she got first woman, I think. But I'm sure, yeah, she beat all the guys anyway.
Yeah. And
Incredible.
that's not an easy thing to do, right? And I saw where my buddy, I was very happy to see Pete Kostelnik, who's been on the show a couple of times. And Pete is one of those guys that, someone said to me, he DNFs a lot. It's like, well, if you're trying to win, you're going to end up DNFing more. I DNF'd a lot in my career on mountain bike 24 hours. And my buddy Rich Roll said to me, he goes, if you just slow down, you can finish these races. And I said, Rich, it's called a race. If I was just going out there to finish, sure, I could do that every time. But when you're going, all out,
Hmm.
you're going to fail.
Yeah,
And sometimes you fail before the finish line comes, right? So that's, Rich looked at it as, hey, don't DNF. Do everything not to DNF. And my vision of the world is, I don't care about a DNF, but we call it a race. I want to win the
yeah,
event, and so it's just a different mindset that people have, right?
yes,
And the same thing with Pete Kostelnik, right? I think he came out second or third this year, and I was like, oh, he's back because he had a car accident and all kinds of stuff,
yeah.
But
Definitely.
here we are, I need to get him back on the show. I love that guy.
Yeah.
Um,
No, it's interesting, yeah, because I think when I first did Badwater, I just wanted to complete it. I mean, I was just like had total imposter syndrome in back in 2022. I just wanted to finish, but now I'm definitely getting more, not in the sharp end at all, but definitely getting more competitive and realizing what I can achieve. It's
And Laura, that's what I want to talk to you about. So it's okay that first time just to go, look, it's the most daunting race on the planet. It's in the hottest place. And in case people don't know, Badwater Basin is the hottest place, hottest recorded temperature ever on planet Earth. Badwater Basin is 385 feet below sea level, 285 feet below sea level.
285.
Yeah. And you're in a bowl, and the heat just goes in there. It doesn't come out. It'll hit 132 degrees Fahrenheit down there. Usually, it's 125. When you're just standing there, you can't think straight. It's just a horrible thing. And until recent years, before you started the race, Laura, I don't know if you know this, the history of it. They used to start it at the hottest point of the day.
Oh, I know. Thank goodness they start at night now,
Yeah,
which is
they had to change it because they were worried someone would die.
yeah,
Right? And so they changed it to middle of the night start time, which is not that much better because
no. At
by the
least you
time
haven't got the heat of the sun burning on you.
you have that, but by the time you get to Panamint Valley, you're in hell again.
Yeah,
And,
yeah. The
you know,
valley.
it just seems to never end is what it comes down to. But you finished that first year, you slayed the beast, you went 135 miles. What's the thinking after that? To
Yeah.
beat that time, to PR? What are we doing?
Oh yeah. Well, as soon as I finished back in 2022, I actually said to Chris at the finish line, I just want to do that again. It was absolutely incredible. Like the whole experience was just unbelievable with the brutality of the race, the savagery, how difficult it was, how hot it was. But I thought I could do better. But obviously, getting into Badwater, it's not guaranteed at all because they only take 100 runners. And once you've completed the race, you're now a veteran. And so they only have 30 veteran places and 70 rookie places. So the competition for the 30 places is so difficult. So I did everything I could until I applied again to make my running CV as good as it could be. And yeah, I just thought I kind of want to get a better time. And I just really love the whole experience of being there with all these absolutely incredible athletes, and the Badwater family as well. That's what I love, like the people going back year after year. Um, just it's like absolutely amazing, and the honor of being on the start line of like the world's toughest foot race is unbelievable. So but yeah, each time I've kind of wanted to try and do better, and just embrace the whole experience. Think how I know it doesn't sound lucky, but I feel really lucky to have been had that experience.
No, it is lucky. So you've done it 4 years in a row. You've made
Yeah.
it back all 4 years. Have you bested your? I know you bested your time this last time by a lot, but each year did we do better?
No, second year I did my second best time, which was I think 36 hours 44. But then last year I was quite sick from I had really bad tummy issues. So from about mile 72, I threw up continuously for the rest of the race, probably about 30 times. I was could not take down food or water, so I had no fuel. So I did 38:04, so I was about an hour and 15 slower than the year before, which was disappointing, but I just had to grit my teeth and just get it done. But then this year, so much better. 33 33:47 or 49, I think it was. So three
This
hours.
year was a much cooler year, if you could call anything in it does it cool,
It was
right?
definitely a couple of, it was, say, I work in Celsius, so I think highest temperature was 47 rather than 53. It was still really
Right.
hot at times. It wasn't cold, but it was a cooler Badwater, definitely, which, so I'd like to go back again next year to see, in maybe more normal Badwater conditions, what I can do. Because this year I was really doing so well, and at times my crew were like thinking I could do sub 32, even sub 30 was banded around, but it all kind of Darwin section, but just after 100 miles, there's a really long, like the 50k straight that goes all the way to Lone Pine. It's that
It
never,
never ends. It never ends. I've crewed for that race. It just never. You're in the car, and it never ends.
yeah,
By the way, folks, if I'm doing the math right, because I live with a Brit, 47 Celsius is about 115, 116 Fahrenheit, which is a cool year out
yeah,
there. Um,
exactly. Yeah, I think,
anything,
I mean, Panama maybe in last year was say 125,
yeah,
126.
it's crazy. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
I mean, it's like being in an oven with a hairdryer blowing in your face at the same time.
Well, I always called it because I used to because I lived in LA for all those years. I used to go train in the summer. I would start in Trona, which if you Trona is the road after you come down the way you guys come. When you get to the bottom of Town Pass,
Hmm.
if you were to hang a left, you would go to Trona.
Oh
I
yeah.
would I would do that 70, 60 miles Trona, go over Town Pass and drop into Furnace Creek. And when you do that at midday, I called it the convection oven.
Mm,
It's you're in a convection oven. Your hands are cooking on the handlebars of your bike. The wind is hitting your hands and blisters your skin.
yeah,
That's how bad it is.
yeah.
It
It,
hurts. Um, Laura, you don't know this about me, but I'm one of these. I'm one of the guys that brought low carb to the internet,
mm,
right? Just a low carb diet, and we've never even talked about the diet, but I'm going to go ahead and guess that it's not low carb at all.
yeah.
Because everyone knows that sugar is the easiest way to fuel an event, right? You're burning through sugar, you're taking in sugar. I figured out on the bike years and years and years ago, way back when I was doing 24-hour mountain bike races. You see, with the mountain bike races, you go for an hour and you end up where you started again. So your crew can just wait at the start finish line and hand you another bottle
Uh-huh.
of, back in those days, it was just Hammer Nutrition or Hammer Nutrition was brand new. As a matter of fact, it was two different companies. It was ECAPS and Hammer Nutrition, and then they came together as one company. Um, and I noticed that after 12 or 15 hours, the rest of my 24-hour race was me throwing up over the handlebars, right? Just throwing up and keep riding. And, conventional wisdom was it's happening because your body is doing something it's not supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
I had a different thought. It's I've been at a birthday party eating cake icing for the past 16 hours. You can't keep eating cake icing and not expect to get sick,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
The other thing I noticed was whenever I go out, because we would have these training rides. Chris used to own a lot of these when he owned Planet Ultra. It would be these 200 and 300 mile rides where every 30 miles they would have food stops so you could get water and food. The next day after these rides, I would see people walking around the hotel, and everyone had what I called elephantitis, the same thing you guys, you look at all the runners the day after a race, all their calves, you know who the runners are. The calves are swollen up.
Mhm.
Even for the Badwater, I'll go as far as to say the guys that your pacers, a lot of the pacers will get the swollen ankles. And everyone will tell you that happens because of pounding in the heat. And I'm here to tell you that that's not true. It's not true whatsoever. Because the first thing I tried to figure out was my stomach. So in 24-hour races, I came up with a product called Vinergy.
Right.
That's what my crew started calling it. It was
Okay.
Vinnie's Energy, so they started calling it Vinergy. And Vinergy was basically I would take real peanut butter, not like the crappy stuff. Real peanut butter.
Yeah.
I would put it in a big Tupperware bowl. I would add butter to it, a lot of butter. I would mush it all together. So I had a high protein, high fat food with more fat in it. And then I would whip in just a little honey to sweeten it and to give me the carbohydrates. So I was eating a high fat, high protein food with just enough sugar. Guess what happened?
You weren't sick?
Didn't get sick anymore.
Wow.
And then I noticed the more butter I added, the better the formula became. Right. And then I started working other things in. It's like, okay, I get tired of that taste. You know how you get tired, like something that's
Yeah.
working at the beginning, you get tired of it. I started adding other things to it. Like I would take melted chocolate and make a chocolate version in there. That would be the sugar instead of the honey. Or I would take Smucker's jelly, like the strawberry jelly, and
Yeah.
instead of the honey, I would mix the Smuck. So I would have like three things there. So my crew, and by the way, when you get to the start finish, they would put a new water bottle on my bike and they would hand me a spoon of this. All I needed was a spoon,
I was going to say, how much did you have?
just a spoon. And you're getting enough fat to make it another hour. Your brain goes, oh, he gave me what I needed. The byproduct was the next day I would wake up after the race and see everybody else where you couldn't see their ankles. You could still see my ankles. And that's when I went, oh, the inflammation is coming from the sugar too, is
Uh-huh.
causing this inflammation. I figured out two problems all at once and didn't, I was just setting out to fix one, fixed both.
Wow. That's amazing.
Right. And that's
Incredible.
how I came up with my product UltraFat, which I'm not selling anymore right now. Even though I still own the company, I've halted. So right now, folks, you cannot even go. I'm not. This is not a sales pitch. I'm not even making UltraFat right now. But that's what UltraFat is. It's coconut oil and almond butter with electrolytes in it. That's why it works. I
Yeah.
created it for me, and I started selling it to everyone else. I started having trouble with the mailing of it, so I'm shutting it down for about 8 weeks until I can figure it out.
Okay.
Right?
Oh, well, I'd be so interested to try it.
Oh, we used to send it to you guys. You probably got it in your packets 2 or 3 years ago, but a lot of runners go, "I don't know what this is." Everyone sends the stuff in the packets. I'm not going to try it because I know what my stuff is. Right? So that's the problem you would have.
Yeah.
Now, I know most of the runners picked up on my ultrasalt because even though we're not sponsoring that event anymore, we got like 30 people who wrote to us and said, hey, can we get ultrasalt? I was like, absolutely. Sent it out to them.
So they're like the salt capsules.
Yeah, because you can do two things. Number one, you can measure it. And like right now in this water bottle, this 40-ounce bottle, I have three of them in here right now.
Oh, so
I,
they dissolve.
Yeah, what I do, Laura, is as you know, when you salt is heavy and some of the elements in electrolytes is heavier than what water can hold, so it all falls to the bottom. But what I figured out is if you use gassed water, so if you use a Soda Stream or if you take Pellegrino or Perrier,
Yeah.
drop it in there, the gas will suspend the stuff in it, and you can just drink it down.
Clever.
Right?
Yeah, because I find in races I struggle swallowing like tablets.
Yeah.
So at Badwater, one of my crew had S caps. I don't know if they're a
Yeah, S caps is one of the three I recommend. If you're not going to take mine, I always say either mine, S caps, or salt stick. That's it.
Okay. Yeah, because I mean, I feel a bit of an amateur, but I have anyway, I was having Precision Hydration, which is a UK company, but it didn't have,
Hmm.
it's got sodium in it, but it doesn't have potassium and other things that you need for like cramping. And so he was sort of, it's in a plastic capsule, so he was sort of dissolving it into little bits of Coke or drinks like that, because obviously I couldn't
Yeah.
sort of swallow. But
You
yeah,
know what? I'm going to send you some of my product so you can try it in your training. And I think because we really did, I did an ad for it at the beginning of this. We really did just deconstruct sweat,
yeah,
and a lot of people have challenged us. There was a guy that did Badwater. He was a professor, a chemistry professor. He brought it into the lab, and they picked it apart. And he wrote to me and said, "Oh my God, you guys really did. The pH balance and everything on this is perfect." And I said, "I'm not a genius. My genius was to go hire geniuses,
uh-huh,
right? I'm Richard Branson. I don't fly the plane. I'll find someone named Matthew to fly the plane.
yeah.
I just own the company,
But
right?"
no, I know I'm a salty sweater because I had a sweat test. So I think I sweat
Yeah.
like 1800, whatever the unit is, an hour, which is a lot, to sort of get all that back into you. Yes.
Well, there's two things about hydration. One is, and ultra runners run into this problem more than most. Ultra cyclists too. Any ultra person, we're always fighting dehydration to
Yeah.
some level. It's almost impossible to be perfectly hydrated unless you stay in a temperature controlled room, drinking water and electrolytes at a perfect amount all day,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
If you're running on top of that and you're constantly sweating, you're always behind the eight ball. That's why I would tell ultra runners, I don't care if you like a glass of wine here and there, nothing that's going to dehydrate you within 3 months of a race. You need to start catching up because you're always behind, and any kind of alcohol is going to just screw that up, right? So don't do it. So that's one thing. Number two, even when you think you're hydrated again, you're not. Just keep taking in salt and water. You're never going to catch up, especially with the amount of running you're doing,
Yeah.
right? Now, God, if you don't want to go here, I'll cut this part out of the recording. But my buddy Don, the billionaire Don Coddington, hang on. We play that every time I talk about Don. You met Don up there when we were
Yes.
running. And as you know, Don is a guy who doesn't stop asking questions. He will sit there and ask. He's one of the best. He would have been the best interviewer in the world. He asks all the right questions all the time.
Okay.
And we're walking up the hill one day, and he was like, "Yeah, I was talking to Laura and Matt over by the hotel." I went, "Yeah." He goes, "Yeah." She was talking about hydration and this British company she goes through. I went, "Yeah." He goes, "Yeah." They put her on a treadmill and shoved a wire up her ass.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Wait, hang on, what?" He goes, "Yeah, it's the most accurate way to figure out how hydrated someone is."
Oh, it's
And
actually your core temperature.
is that what they were trying to figure out, your core temperature?
Yes, this was the
Oh,
heat chamber.
okay. So explain what went on with that. Did they really shove a wire
Um,
up your ass,
Well,
and what
I
were
did
they checking?
the insertion myself, but basically living in the UK, training for Badwater, our sort of summer temperatures are probably, we're lucky 75. Sometimes it's 80 degrees if we're having a heat wave. So so for training for Badwater, my local university at Chichester, they have this environmental chamber where basically they can simulate the conditions in Death Valley. So they'll put the temperature up. It's a room with a treadmill in, quite a small room, and yeah, they'll put a temperature up to say 42 degrees, probably. I think that's the maximum we could get it to, so maybe that's 110, with 10% humidity. And yeah, I run on the treadmill for 60 minutes to 90 minutes for like literally 2 weeks, before I come out to the States. And yeah, to measure my core, I have to have the rectal thermometer. So it's this wire which has got, I mean, I don't know how much, maybe that's like 4 inches, has to go up your bottom basically. And there's a ball to sort of hold it in place. And then the wire is attached to their unit, which controls your core. So the whole point of it is when you're running, they'll keep your core temperature, my core temperature, between 38.5 and 39 degrees. You don't want to go over 39 degrees because that's sort of dangerous. And it's all about, just keeping your heart rate under control. It makes you sweat quicker, increases your like blood plasma, and there's loads and loads of benefits. So I don't know, can't remember exactly all of them, but I do trust the science. So it's that was what it was. That was what that was all about.
So they were trying to figure out exactly how much salt to put back in you
Yes,
per.
they do. Like, so every day they sort of measure how much water I drank, sweat tests, how much I was sweating, the salt concentration, and what I needed to, how much sort of electrolyte I needed to kind of every hour, especially when you're at the race.
Do you find that even though it was a bit cooler this year, I think we decided 116 was the highest temperature when it's sometimes 125.
Mm.
Do you think that having your hydration more on point had anything to do with you having your best time ever?
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. No. Definitely. I mean, we were really this year. I had a spreadsheet. I felt like the most organised this year. I had a
Yeah,
plan. I had a nutrition plan. I had hydration, and my crew like every hour. Well, I mean, it sort of did go slightly wrong at the end, as it always kind of does.
it
But
does. The wheels come off, sure.
to begin with, we did have this plan of trying to, sort of alternate the electrolytes and the water, and then the hottest part of the day, continually really doing the electrolytes and stuff. I don't know, definitely, because also in Death Valley it's so hot. You're like, you don't really realize how much you're sweating because it's just evaporating
Yeah,
off.
you're. I always say you're like a wick. You're wicking water away, and you don't see the sweat, but then
Yeah.
you look at the crook of your elbow and you see like table salt.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. You could lick your skin and it's salty.
Oh, you can take it off your body, put it right back into a salt
Exactly.
shaker, and
Yes.
use it later. Yeah, it's an interesting thing out there. But I would like to see you even beat that time.
Oh,
The,
I
the
know I could.
next,
I feel like I really could. It is just keeping that energy level up. Say after 100 miles, when I was actually sort of felt like I was running so slowly, I was quicker power walking, and I want to be running. I really feel I've got the potential in me to get a better time. I really, really do.
well,
Just
if you ever want to talk nutrition, you know, get you off of some of the sugar. You're not going to be able to stop the sugar in a race like that, but you can definitely get in more fat,
yeah,
more calories from fat that will keep your stomach even for a lot. Again, the wheels may or may not come off the cart, but you need to do it early on. Mike, I mentioned Mike McKnight,
mm,
right? He figured out that if we talk about being fat adapted. That word was kind of created on this podcast, getting your body to run on fat, right? You can't run you can't run an 800 like that because it's a fast race and you need sugar. You're burning through blood glycogen in an 800.
mm.
But to go 135 miles, you can run on fat, mostly with just enough sugar trickle to be able to do better. Who's the other? Zach Bitters. Zach is. Do you know who Zach Bitters is?
Yes, yeah,
Yeah, Zach's a friend. He's been doing that for years. He realizes, yeah, I need some sugar because I'm going fast. Guys set all kinds of records, but it's not the amount of sugar you think you need, right? You need a good supply of fat as a base. And it'd be nice if you ever want to talk about that privately, I'm here. We can
oh,
get on,
brilliant.
on these kind of Zoom calls like this and
Oh,
and, and
thanks,
do
Vinnie.
that.
That we go, yeah, because the nutrition side of things, I feel like is my weakest point because I don't really like gels, to be honest. The only gel I do have, it's Goo Liquid Energy, because it's like a thinner, it's like more of a liquid,
Hmm.
but I just get that point when I start to feel nauseous, and all I crave is watermelon, and then I've got Matthew saying, oh, there's no calories in watermelon, and we've we're trying to limit the amount of food because when I first started ultra running, I had like a whole buffet in the back of the car. I had
Yeah.
so much food. Now we definitely have streamlined the food that we have. But yeah, I just get to that point when I do feel sick and I really struggle to like get the calories in. Which again, if you've not got fuel in your tank, it's so if there's
Yeah.
something that's going to stop all that sweetness and
Look, when I crewed the 135 for Tony Patera a couple of times, we gave him luncheon meat and cheese, rolled up, just high fat foods the whole time. And he's one of those guys, he never sits down. He just keeps, if he's not walking, he's running. And I've seen people do it. Mike McKnight, Zach Bitters. I can go on and on and on. If you want to keep your stomach calm, you need to work on it in practice. You can't go, well, I'll try that in the next race. Start working on it now.
yeah.
And if you need more ultra salt, I'll get it to you. I'll get Chris to send it out to the UK to you so you can try it.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, well, I'll do whatever it takes to help you.
Oh,
I'm always interested in helping the runners.
yeah. No, it's yeah. What was I going to say about I have had funnily enough Hawaiian rolls with cheese in, but sometimes it's the I still can't like swallow the bread. But I mean, I
Yeah,
love cheese. I do love cheese.
the
Maybe not.
problem with bread is, now you get inflammation again from the bread, right?
Yeah, yeah,
But when you're out there, if you want bread, eat bread because your stomach, that acid feeling in your stomach, you just want it to stop, right?
yeah. Exactly. What about liquid calories? Like carb drink. Is that sort of sugar and
Yeah, I never did much of it. It was illegal to drink alcohol on the course, but I would always bring 2 Guinness beers with me, and I'm not even a beer drinker. But sometimes when you're throwing up hour after hour and you can't get calories in, someone figured out. Some people do it with watered down Coca-Cola, but it worked for me for something I don't actually do. I'm not a beer drinker,
yeah?
but you drink the Guinness, and somehow it goes down. You burp a couple of times, and you feel better.
Oh my god.
And nobody knows why it works, right?
Yeah.
And it's supposed to be illegal. Chris was like, no alcohol in these races, and race across Oregon and all of them, the Hoodoo 500 out, and none of them wanted you to have beer, but we would all bring beer because it was, you do what you have to do when you're out there.
Oh yeah, exactly. Well,
Yeah,
yeah, you would almost do anything kind of to to
yeah,
get the best performance and not to feel ill. And but I think Guinness is like I'm sure there was something to do with pregnant. Well, no, pregnant women shouldn't drink alcohol, but I'm sure there was something that Guinness was good for pregnant women or something
yeah,
to do
yeah. That's another. They said if a woman was about to deliver and it wasn't coming, you drink a
with
Guinness,
Guinness.
and
Oh
yeah, yeah. Apparently, it works for pregnancies and ultra races. And it's all wives' tales.
yeah.
The other one we would do, and again, it's a bit acidy, but I think it started with us on the bike side of things, and it crossed over to the runners. It was the pickles and the pickle juice.
Oh god. I mean, I don't. Oh, ooh, but gross. But I hear people talking about Harvey Lewis. I'm sure was saying he loved eating pickles. Yeah, that
Well, it fights cramps and everything else. It works. I don't know why it works or how it works. People keep going, well, it must be the sodium. It's like, nah, we're getting a lot of sodium from other places. But when things get bad, pickle juice somehow works,
yeah.
right?
Exactly. If you can stomach that, amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's, yeah, that's the stuff I would have in my ice chest.
that's oh yeah. Do you mean pickles like you put with burgers? Those
Yeah. Yeah. Just dill pickles,
oh,
just
sorry.
briny ass pickles, and then
Yeah.
drink the juice.
Oh,
I keep it in the fridge. I don't really even eat the pickles. I just
just nick the juice.
drink the juice. Yeah.
Do you actually like the juice, or do you just
Yeah,
take it
yeah,
with
I
the tin?
do, but I like those kind of things. So
Oh, right.
you got to like that kind of
Yeah,
thing.
exactly. I don't really like vinegar and yeah.
Oh, I just got into making not long ago making kombucha and that kind of thing.
Oh
And
yeah,
the first couple of batches I made it the way right, the way they tell you to make it. It was like, okay, this is way too sweet, because the bacteria is supposed to eat up all of the sugar and leave you with like 2 or 3 grams of sugar per 16 ounces. And it's like, no, 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 this is too sweet. I started putting half the sugar and then doing a double fermentation. I got it down to where it's basically vinegar in the bottle, and I love it. And it's great for your stomach,
Yeah.
right? Or you can look, you can go out and buy the stuff for like $5 a bottle, or you can make it. I think I did the math. It was like 28 cents for a 16-ounce bottle when you make it
Oh
yourself.
wow.
So I didn't mind throwing away all the gallons of it that I was making until I
Yes.
got it right, you know.
Oh yeah. Oh no, yes, it's me and vinegar because it's apple cider. I keep reading about people like they start the day with apple cider vinegar, and I mean, I'd probably do it if I held my nose, and oh, but I still no.
I my wife does the apple cider vinegar, and people swear by it.
Mm,
It's in the fridge right now. She pours it in water and drinks it down.
yeah, I
You
suppose
know.
you probably do get used to it, but I'm just a bit. I just,
Yeah.
people have vinegar on their chips. Oh, I'm going to the fish and chip shop, which is not very often I go in there, but oh, the smell of it—it's just like disgusting.
I have fish and chips once a year. That's one of my. I do things
You,
like, yeah. Whenever I go to England, I do the fish and chips, but it's got to be really good ones. It can't be just anywhere.
you've got
Like one of my sister-in-laws live in London, and right around the corner from her house, they do a great fish and chips. Oh yeah, I do vinegar. I do it all.
yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
love
no, I mean,
vinegar.
we're probably the same. We probably have fish and chips once a year, and we've got a really good place around the corner, and the chips are good.
Yeah, I don't eat most of the chips because I could get good French fries here. You
Yeah,
know, I'll
yeah,
eat just enough to get through the fish portion of it, but I throw them away. I don't need all those carbs. I'm just trying to enjoy the fish.
yeah.
You know.
Like the batter.
Yeah, I eat the batter.
Yeah.
Of course, that's why you order it.
You can buy the batter as they call it scraps or something. They just sell the batter if you really
I
fancy.
knew I had, when I didn't even know that this was a thing. But when I was playing college football, I was in New Orleans, and it was and there was it was brand new at the time. It was only out for a few years. Popeye's fried chicken. It started Al Copeland started in New Orleans, and I was with this kid, black kid, who grew up in my hometown, and he goes, "Hey man, pull up to that Popeye." So we pull up and we go in, and I ordered a 2-piece or something, and he ordered a 2-piece, and then he said to the girl, who was also black behind the counter, he said something to her in black parlance, right? And I grew up with a lot of black people, but I didn't know. I said, "Wait, what did he just ask her?" And she went, "Okay," and she nudged to the guy in the back, and they filled up a bag full of the stuff that comes out of the fryer, the batter
Yeah,
that doesn't hook onto the chicken. And I was like, I said to him, "Donald Ray, what did you just do?" He goes, "Oh, you didn't know about this? You could get all the, and it's a
yeah,
whole meal. It's like it's a whole meal of crap." And he goes,
yeah,
"Yeah, but it tastes good." And
yeah.
he was
Exactly.
right. It's delicious.
Do you have to pay for that, or was it? Do they give it
But it
away?
just gave it to him because they're going to throw it away. What about in England? You got to pay for that, or they just give it to
You
you? Right?
do, honestly, I think you do. And have you ever heard of Marks and Spencers in the UK?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm sure they actually sell it as in the sort of the fish section, like the batter scraps. People actually buy it.
so
It's
they're
really
probably just dropping batter into grease and then selling it as if it fell off of a piece of fish.
exactly sell it for £5, making them.
You got to be
Yes,
kidding me, right?
I
Oh,
know. This, but yeah, but no,
um,
it's making me hungry.
for batter, you want to go eat some
No,
fried
no, no,
batter?
not for batter. No, no. The fish. I do eat. I love fish, especially like salmon and prawn. I'm fish eating vegetarian, so
Yeah,
most of my diet is. I do eat quite a high protein diet normally. Lots of fish, lots of vegetables.
yeah. Yeah, look, protein is king, and animal protein is king. Do you eat eggs and that kind of
I
thing?
do eat eggs. Yes.
Good.
I mean, part of me thinks I'd like to not eat fish, but I just felt like my diet would be so boring, and I actually do really enjoy eating fish. So, you know,
I could eat fish every single day of my life, and I probably eat seafood 3 times a week, if not four. And the rest of the time, it's red meat, just a lot of red meat and eggs. That's basically my diet. You know,
where's your favourite restaurant in Lone Pine?
um, well, Seasons is the only place where you're going to get a half decent meal. So I went there a couple of nights to get, just get a steak,
Hmm.
and they also have a trout there. So I got the trout one night. The totem is the worst.
Oh,
Um, you don't even know where that is.
no, I've seen it, the Totem Cafe. I've not been. We normally go to the Grill because
The
they do
grill is, yeah,
nice
the grill
salmon.
is. What do you get at the grill?
Well, they do this quinoa salad, and
Yeah,
it's really nice. It's got like cucumber, tomato, avocado, and then I always get a side of salmon. I think I had that like 4 days in a row, or the salmon
yeah.
with vegetables.
I saw someone eating that quinoa salad, and I'm not a quinoa fan. It's just a bunch of grains for no reason. Um, but I got the salmon. The salmon came two ways.
Oh, I had it plain because it comes with the white wine saucy thing or the ginger salmon. But I
Yeah,
just had it.
there's the ginger, and then there's the white sauce. I got it
Yeah.
with the white sauce, and it's like it looked like a cat puked on my
Oh no, there's
salmon.
too. I mean, I don't say I don't normally have sauces, but there's way too much sauce. Because Matthew had it. It was like way too much sauce on that.
I had to wipe it off.
Yeah,
It was like I scraped it off, and it was still too much.
yeah.
Yeah, but I had it in. But then after that, I go to the grill because it's the cheapest place to go to, and I would just get a hamburger, a couple of burgers with cheese on it, and just eat it without the bun.
Hmm.
That's probably the best you can do there.
Yeah. No,
But yeah,
yeah, no. So we didn't go to Seasons this time, but I have so I've been there before. Because what the only thing that put me off when we went before, I know it sounds really weird, but they had these blackout blinds down. But I think because it was so hot, they put these blinds down, and so
yeah.
just the atmosphere in there was just really bright lights. It was just weird because of
Yeah,
it was
it,
so
it, it's kind of a strange place, and but it's the only place to get a good, well, not a good steak,
yeah, it's definitely the best food.
a steak.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they also have, like I said, you can get a good piece of trout there. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, there's not a whole lot to do in Lone Pine at all. So, last question. Oh, wait, before last question, I got to remind folks this show is brought to you by Villa Capelli Olive Oil. Villa Capelli Olive Oil is the best olive oil on the planet. I'm not just saying that because they pay our bills. I'm saying that because before they ever paid our bills, we talked about this olive oil 12 years ago. Villa Capelli, it makes a big difference. This is not cut olive oil. In the United States, you could cut olive oil up to 40% and still call it pure, extra virgin, whatever you want to put on the front. It's all lies. Villa Capelli is the real stuff. Go to villacapelli.com. Let them know we sent you. Put in promo code Vinnie, Vinnie. Promo code Vinnie, Vinnie. 10% off every single time you do that. We're talking to Laura Watts. Laura, last question. What's next for you? What are we doing now?
Well, I mean, I have done some of the most, in my opinion, the best races in the planet. I mean, Badwater being my absolute favourite. And I've done another race in Greece called Spartathlon that's 153 miles and it's incredibly difficult. It's an epic race, as well as like the Keys 100 in Florida. A few times. So I've actually got a race in a couple of weeks, which is a bit soon from after Badwater. It's called the North Downs Way 100. So it's a race in the UK. It's 100 miles. It's a difficult race. It's on the Badwater preferred qualifying races. So I've done it before, but I needed to find a race in August, September that it just seemed to be the only one that really fitted in. And then I'm going back to Daytona, which is one of Bob Becker's races in
Yeah,
Jacksonville to Daytona Beach, which I've done before. And that, for me, I'm going to use that as it's a kind of a fast race. It's my attempt to try and run 100 miles under 20 hours because the fastest I've ever run 100 miles was at the Keys 100 this year in 2052, which is a really difficult race, mega hot, humid. And I'm thinking,
Yeah.
if I could do that time in those conditions, Daytona's a lot cooler. It should be 60, 70 degrees Fahrenheit. But Badwater, I'd like to go back next year for a fifth. That would be really, really amazing. As I say, no British woman's ever done Badwater more than twice. So yeah, that would be my dream.
Well,
But
just keep doing it. We'll keep pulling for you. And you mentioned Bob Becker, folks.
oh,
If you want to, you can go on the internet. Just put in Bob Becker ultrarunner. He just finished the Badwater 135, the race Laura just did. The interesting thing about Bob is that he's not 48 years old the way Laura is. He's almost double Laura's age. He's 80 years old and the oldest man to ever finish Badwater. It's pretty harrowing to watch. I mean, don't you think? I mean, 80. Can you imagine 80 years
I
old?
know. I mean, he is like an inspiration. He is the goat. He is literally the
Yeah.
greatest. But you think 80 years old, like that is it's a tough race. It's so tough. And I mean, he had an incredible support crew, but it took him 45 hours. And so for 45 hours of continuous movement. I think I heard he just did a radio interview, and I'm sure he said he had like 20 minutes sleep or maybe a 20-minute and a 15-minute break, but that was it at 80 years old. I mean, he's so fit. It's it's amazing, but yeah, wow.
Laura, just, you mentioned the 45-hour mark. And I mentioned this to Don when, because he's always interested. I said, look at the people that came in at 22 hours. We were there. I went to the finish line when the first guys were finishing.
Yeah.
And I said, look at those guys. They're still smiling. They still look fresh.
They've
And
only had
then
one night out of bed. That's
say
it.
again.
They've only had one night out of bed.
Yeah, exactly. They look fresh. Their crews look fresh. When I say fresh, relatively fresh. And then you see the people coming in at 35 hours. Look at them. Look at their crews. The crews are not they're in the car most of the time unless you're out there pacing. The crew looks like crap. The runner looks like crap. And then you get to the 45-hour people. Time on your feet, man.
Mm-hmm.
Those people, I used to see it in the 508 because, a guy like me would come in like 29, 30 hours, something like that. We would go to dinner, go to bed, wake up the next morning, and people are still coming in, right?
Yeah,
And they look like shit,
yeah.
right? They look like someone just rolled over them, backed up, rolled over them again,
It's
right?
harder. It's harder for them, because they're like. So Bob said he had literally 2 nights out. He had two
Yeah,
whole nights out of bed. One night we can sort of cope with. I think, yeah, because like you said, the winner Seaman, he finished in say 20, just under 23 hours. I think they were
yeah,
finished at 7 p.m. So by the time we have the pizza party on the Wednesday night, the race starts on the Monday night.
yeah,
Like his whole crew, they've all had a whole night's sleep. They've so rested in comparison. I remember last year at the pizza party, what the last runner literally came from the top of from Mount Whitney Portal to the pizza party, and she looked like horrendous as she was just literally came in, everyone gave her a standing ovation, and then she must have just gone and like died in her bed.
yeah.
That's so much harder for people, and for the, like you said, for the crews, it's
Yeah, the
insane.
crew tells the story. I mean, you're up for 2 nights. Think about, folks. If you went to prom or something like that when you were 18 years old, you were up all night and you watched the sun come up. You start to look like crap. That's one night. Imagine staying up that whole day and going to another prom the
Yeah,
next night, right?
exactly. I'm being boiled alive at the same time.
Yeah, it's just nuts.
It's yeah. So
The whole thing is crazy. Laura, we're going to keep our eye on you. Please, please feel free to come back whenever you'd like. Also, don't hang up right when the show's over with. I want to say goodbye to you, number one. But number two, we have to wait for something to upload or something. Folks, you know what to do. We all go shopping on Amazon. And before you go to Amazon, go to VinnieTortorich.com, click through the banner. It puts a little coal on the fire, gets my train down the track, and we're able to keep the show free for a gazillion years in a row. So go and do that. Rate and review this podcast. We mentioned PureVitaminClub.com. We got a lot of exciting things coming. If you haven't signed up for Vinnie Tortorich VIP, go check out vinnietortorich.com/VIP. Put your name in. We're going to open it up sometime in August, right in time for those new workouts that are coming out. If you're in the VIP group, those workouts are free to you. You don't pay any extra for that. So go put your name in for that, and you can kind of screw me over by doing that, because you get into the VIP and you get 3 free weight training workouts. So all kinds of good stuff. On behalf of Laura Watts, my name is Vinnie Tortorich. Put life into living and do it with enthusiasm.